Chapter 6, Arkwrights. Resin stepped back onto Bull Street, moving slower now, careful. He glanced over his shoulder, then slipped into a narrow alley swallowed by shade. He pulled the dagger from his jacket and held it to the dim light. It wasn't just heavy. It held the kind of weight that came with stories. The blade narrowed to a sharp, angular point, its surface carved with symbols that ran straight down the center like a forgotten language. The engravings were precise, each mark cut clean along the edge. Gemstones shimmered faintly, almost glowing. A steel wolf's head crowned the base of the hilt. It felt ancient, yet somehow familiar, like something he should remember but didn't. Somehow the weight of it felt personal. Resin wasn't a collector. He'd never had a stable home long enough to keep things. Other than the one photo of his mom and dad, nothing ever lasted. But this was different. He didn't know what it meant. Only that letting it go didn't feel like an option. He tucked the dagger into his jacket and moved back into the flow of the city. Forsyth Park stretched ahead, quiet and green. The fountain whispered as he passed, its water trickling like a secret. Forsyth Park had always been one of Resin's favorite places to vanish for a while. Most Savannians felt the same. Stretching 30 verdant acres through the heart of Savannah's historic district, Forsyth Park is less a public space and more a living painting, equal parts postcard and memory. Oak trees, older than most buildings in the city, line the winding walkways like silent sentries draped in Spanish moss, their limbs curling like smoke in slow motion. The air smells faintly of damp earth, distant jasmine, and old secrets. At the heart of the park, its iconic cast-iron fountain gurgles with an almost musical trickle, the water catching the light just enough to feel enchanted. Benches dot the walkways like quiet invitations, often occupied by ghost tour guides, sketch artists, musicians, or the city's curious cast of regulars. Joggers pass street preachers. Old men play chess in the shade, and kids chase pigeons across patches of sunlit grass. By day, it's a charming escape wrapped in southern gentility. By night, the charm lingers, but something else breathes beneath it, older, quieter, watchful. Back at the house, the old man ended the call and set the phone down. The strange smell still lingered, unfamiliar yet oddly recognizable. His eyes narrowed as he scanned the room, searching for the source. He stepped to the window and peered out onto the street. Nothing. When he turned back, his eyes landed on the table. Something was missing. His jaw tightened as the anger took hold. He shouted, rough, strained, and low. But there was a growl beneath it that didn't sound entirely like him. Across town, after cutting through the park and a few more blocks, Resin spotted the shop ahead, Arkwright's Antiques and Antiquities. The sign was understated, hand-painted, with gold leaf lettering that caught the light without trying to. The storefront didn't beg for attention. If anything, it seemed to avoid it. Clean windows, a heavy wooden door, no dust, no clutter, no sale signs. Everything about the place said, "We don't need your money." were doing just fine. It looked more like an art gallery than a junk shop. Polished, curated, expensive. Definitely not the kind of place someone like Resin wandered into with a bag of stolen jewelry. Good thing Louis worked here. Resin shifted the bag on his shoulder, squared himself to the door, and reached for the handle. Across town, the old man grabbed his jacket from the coat rack and stepped outside. The scent hit him again. His nostrils flared. He caught the scent and started down the sidewalk, moving with quiet urgency, drawn forward by instinct more than direction. A soft bell chimed overhead as Resin pushed the door open. Not a cheerful jingle, but the low toll of an old carriage clock, measured, deliberate, and just a little eerie. The moment he stepped inside, the air shifted. Cooler, quieter. The shop felt sealed off from the rest of Savannah. It didn't smell dusty or musty like most antique stores. It smelled old, paper, wood oil, and something harder to place, like metal struck by lightning, faint but sharp. Time felt strange here, slower, uneven, like the second hand ticked just a little off rhythm from the rest of the world. The shop itself was dark but beautiful. An amber glow settled over the displays. High shelves rose to meet a copper-tiled ceiling stacked with curated oddities, a tarnished mask with hollow eyes, a globe etched with unfamiliar continents, a brass clock with no hands that still ticked softly in its case. Glass display cases crowded the floor, turning the shop into a maze of narrow aisles winding between shelves and tables. They were filled with gems, ornate jewelry, and objects that looked valuable but carried no price tags, if they had ever been meant for sale at all. Everything had its place. Nothing gathered dust, not a smudge on the glass, not a single item out of line. It looked like a place where reality was politely asked to wait outside. Resin walked deeper into the shop, letting his fingers hover just above the displays. He didn't touch anything, not because he was afraid, but because it felt like the kind of place where the items might reach back. A marble bust stared at him from a pedestal near the wall. Its eyes seemed to follow him a little too closely. A brass compass sat beside it, the needle slowly spinning like it couldn't decide where north was. He moved past a velvet-draped table, holding a mirrored jewelry box. The lid was half open. Inside sat a silver key on a red string, and the faintest scent of roses. Display after display crowded the narrow paths, each one just a little off. In the very back, tucked behind a tall shelf of leather-bound books and vintage binoculars, sat a massive wooden counter, definitely not meant for a modern shop. It looked like it had been dragged out of some forgotten estate and dropped here like it refused to leave. Behind it, hunched low in a padded office chair, sat Louis, sweatpants, hoodie, headphones on, locked into a Nintendo Switch. The glowing screen lit his face with flickers of color as his thumbs flew across the controls, completely absorbed. A half-empty bag of chips was crumpled beside the register, and a can of something fizzy teetered dangerously close to a priceless-looking crystal skull. Resin stood in front of the counter, watching him for a beat. "Figures," Resin muttered. Louis didn't look up. "1 second, boss fight." Louis's fingers were a blur, his whole body leaning into the tiny screen like sheer willpower might somehow pull off the win. Resin shook his head. "Nice to see customer service is still top tier." No, 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 no. Come on, roll, dodge, roll. The screen flashed red. A tiny sound effect chirped the unmistakable theme of failure through the headphones. Louis froze, staring at the screen like it had betrayed him personally. Are you kidding me? That's bullshit. That is actual high-quality AAA bullshit. This boss is broken. It's rigged, totally rigged. He let the switch drop into his lap, arms thrown wide like he was appealing to a jury. 3 health potions, full stamina. I was crushing it. He pulled his headphones off and looked up, eyebrows lifting in surprise when he saw Resin. Oh, dude, I didn't even hear you come in. When did you get here? Resin opened his mouth to respond, but Louis barreled right past him. You ever get so into a fight you forget where you even are? That was me just now. I was locked in, zoned out. Could have been a fire in here, I wouldn't know. Honestly, that guy's hitbox is trash. Like, what even is coding anymore? Resin blinked. Louis didn't stop. And the lag? Don't get me started on the damn lag. I'm playing offline and there's still lag. Explain that one. Witchcraft. I'm telling you, straight up witchcraft. He leaned back in his chair with a dramatic sigh, like he'd just survived a war instead of losing to a cartoon skeleton. Anyway, what's up, Sir Sneaks-a-Lot? Not used to seeing you here. Resin raised an eyebrow. Hi. Louis blinked, like Resin's painfully short reply had short-circuited whatever social software he was running. Cool, cool. Love the energy, he said, giving his chair a lazy spin before turning halfway toward Resin. He dropped the switch onto the counter like it had personally failed him. What brings me the honor of your presence this fine Tuesday morning? Can a friend visit another friend at work? They can, but you don't, unless you need something. Hey, who's the one always needing favors? Okay, true. He threw up his hands in mock surrender. What good am I if I can't help out my old pal? So, what can I do for you, Sneaky Boots? Resin dropped his backpack onto the counter with a muted thud. Got some pieces? Thought maybe you could take them off my hands? Louis raised an eyebrow, didn't move. You? Bringing me stuff? Okay, what happened? You get banned from every pawn shop in town? Resin didn't answer, which was answer enough. Louis stood unzipping the bag and glancing inside. He sifted through the contents with practiced disinterest. Rings, watches, bracelets. All pretty standard. My dude, it's like the jewelry counter at Macy's threw up in your bag. I can't take any of this. Oh, come on, it'll sell. Not in here, it won't. Louis swept a hand dramatically around the shop. Look around, my glittery little thief goblin. This isn't a flea market. The people who come in here aren't hunting for an Aspen gold-tone watch by Michael Kors. He held it up like it was evidence in a crime he wanted no part of. I guess you got a point, Resin muttered, glancing around the shop again. What is all this stuff anyway? Dunno, man. My dad and his weird little circle collect and trade this stuff. He says it's for sale, but honestly, I hardly ever see anyone actually buy anything. It's like Weirdo Central in here. I just watch the place when he's gone, which is like all the time. Pretty sure he's out there racking up enough airline miles to fly to another planet. But hey, I don't mind. As long as the place doesn't burn down, he pays me. It's a pretty cushy gig. What does your dad do, being gone so much? No idea. Something like a doctor, I think, or a consultant, or a Magician? Hell if I know. He doesn't explain, I don't ask. What I do know is, if he found out I gave you money for that junk in the bag, I'd be off this gravy train faster than you can say pawn shop. I know I owe you, dog, but I can't do it. Now, whatever that shiny thing poking out of your jacket is, that's a different story. Resin glanced down. Sure enough, the dagger was jutting from his jacket pocket. He pulled it free. Under the lights above the counter, the gemstones gleamed even brighter, casting small reflections that danced across both their faces. Louis nodded toward the dagger. Now that thing? That'll fit right in here. I saw it the second I stood up. Thing's got side quest written all over it. I don't know what that means, Resin said. Louis pointed at the dagger like it made his case. Dude, just look at it. Those crazy symbols. That dope-ass wolf head. Come on. Where'd you even get this? I found it, Resin replied in the least convincing tone possible. Mm-hmm. Louis gave him a long, unimpressed look, all sarcasm and a raised eyebrow. You know what those symbols mean? Resin asked. Not a clue, Captain Sticky Fingers, but I bet my dad does. This is exactly the kind of weird shit he's into. He's supposed to be back tonight, if you want me to show it to him. Resin paused, looking down at the dagger. Yeah, can you? He turned it slightly in his hand. I don't know why, but it's like when you don't know something yet somehow feel like you should. Like you lost something, but didn't even know you had it. That's how this thing makes me feel. Louis crunched into a potato chip and blinked. Damn, Resin, that was beautiful. He swallowed softer now. I didn't know you had, well, feelings. He smiled genuinely. You want a hug or something? Resin didn't say anything. Just gave Louis that look, the one that said, you're a dumbass. Okay then, sure. I'll show it to him when he gets here. What are friends for, if not accomplices to questionable acquisitions? Louis shook his head, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Swing by tomorrow. I'll give you the lowdown. Sound Gucci? Yeah, sounds Gucci, Resin said, the word tasting awkward in his mouth. He hovered for a moment, eyes on the dagger. Part of him didn't want to let it go. But the bigger part, the part that needed answers, won out. Resin grabbed his backpack, left the dagger on the counter, gave Louis a wave, and headed for the door. Behind glass in a nearby display case, an old porcelain doll's head snapped back the other direction. Resin stopped. He stared at it for a second. Yeah, nope, he muttered, and stepped out the door. Outside, reality picked up where it had left off. Sunlight, traffic, the slow rhythm of Savannah. But somewhere in that rhythm, something had already gone off beat.